So welcome everyone. We're going to give it a couple of minutes for people to dial in. Today is going to be, I think, quite a busy day for us. Before we get started, I will display our antitrust policy notice as always. The full Linux Foundation antitrust policy can be found on our website. The link is on the slide. And if you're a Linux Foundation member company, you can contact our counsel, Andy Up to Grove. So today's meeting is, I believe, the second public meeting of the Telco Workgroup. It is being hosted by Jimmy from Ericsson, and we have a global audience joining in. Thank you for those who are joining at what could be termed an inconvenient time. But for those of us in Europe and Asia, it is just perfect. So Jimmy, I will hand over to you to chair the meeting, and I will be available at any time to jump in.
Thank you. I think that it's great that we could have this second meeting of the work group. I think the first meeting we had was to align a little bit about talking about what could this group do, what could we set out to do, and what do we want to accomplish. I think that in the meantime, since our second meeting, we had discussions with many of you, and we have had discussions with many companies that unfortunately are not yet in the meeting. We hope to have them join our meetings soon. And what have sort of crystallized is a common wish to work on harmonizing software bill of materials to ensure that we have a harmonized view of that in the telco industry, to reduce complexity both on the consumption and on the sales side, so that we know that whatever we consume is also what we the same software bill of material that we can send out in our products. I have prepared a few slides. Now I just need to figure out how I share my video. I'm not too familiar with
well, there is on the downside there are these controls, and there is this big green share screen.
Thank you. That's extremely useful. I think I actually managed to share now.
Yes, you did.
Great. Let's see here. Then I should probably go into some sort of presentation mode as well. Okay. So now I don't see if anyone writes in the chat. So if you want to raise your hand or so, I think it's probably easier if you just interrupt me. But I figured we could do a short welcome. I think Shane handled the welcome excellently, but also a short round the table just to understand who is in the meeting, that we get to know each other a little bit. And I can start with myself. Jimmy Ahlberg, I work for Ericsson, and I work in our OSPO that we just established a few months ago. And one of the things I'll be working with is OpenChain and open source compliance. So this is sort of part of that work. Anyone else want to go next?
I can. So hi, my name is Gerge Chatari, and I'm working in the OSPO of Nokia, and there I'm responsible, among other things, for compliance and contribution management, let's say.
Great to have you and have Nokia represented in this call.
Okay, I'm happy to leap in next. So I'm Andrew Katz. I'm from a company in the UK called Orcro, and I'm also a lawyer from a firm called Moorcrofts. We're OpenChain partners, and we provide OpenChain compliance services to businesses all over the world.
So maybe I can take the next. I'm Jari, and I Gregory. I know I'm ex-Nokia as well, but at Cisco I used to be the open source due diligence lead for quite many deals, and I guess I could call myself open source compliance expert in that sense. And yeah, I've been with OpenChain for, I don't know, a couple of years now. And yeah, next.
Maybe I could go next then. Håkan Asperg is my name. I'm working with Jimmy in the Ericsson OSPO, and also have quite a few years in the compliance area.
Okay, I can go next then. So I'm Elio. I'm open source engineer from the BMW right now, and then been OpenChain for a while as well. And my interest in general is see how actually every group is taking aim for the SPDX documentation coming from different places. Next one.
So, may I?
Please.
Okay, so thank you so much. So I'm Takashi Ninjoji from Toshiba, from Japan. So thank you so much for, so I'm very pleased to participate in this meeting. So I'm working on the, how to say, promotion and development of open source and inner source in my company. And yes, sure, open source compliance is one of our primary concerns. And I'm also interested in the SPDX and the automation tooling for open source compliances. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Hi, can I speak?
Yes, please. Please,
Okay.
Toshiba.
Hi. I'm Tom Osaki from Fujitsu and working for the OSS compliance in the IP division. And I'm just interested in OpenChain and also SPDX related things. And also from Fujitsu, there's an Ino-san is working for the telco related thing. And Ino-san, please.
This is Hatsumi Ino from Fujitsu business unit. My business unit is building the solution and especially for the service and based on the software. So we are kind of heavy user of the software. So I'm co-working with Osaki-san from the business side to support this activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else on the call? Okay, then I think we also have King from Huawei. I see on the call. Great to have you on the call, King. I see that you're muted, but great to have you nonetheless. Let's see if I can share my screen again here. Share my entire screen this time, and hopefully this screen share is working, so that the next thing on the agenda, hopefully you see the agenda slide. Let me know if...
No, we see another screen. We see the Zoom.
You see another screen?
Yes.
That's irritating. Then
now I see
need
myself.
to figure this out. I will stop sharing and I will share again. So I'll try to share my entire screen instead. Let's see, PowerPoint. All right, hopefully now the great screen is showing.
Yes,
great, thank you.
That's the correct screen.
So the next thing to touch upon in the agenda would be the vision, and don't get too hung up on the naming. It was just something in my head, but sort of unified or harmonized SBOM format. And really, when we talked to some of you offline, outside of the telco group, but sort of to get you interested in telco group at least, what we talked about was that the SBOM format, it's not really a competitive advantage. It's something all companies, we need to provide a software bill of materials, and we need to consume software bill of materials. So it doesn't really matter if one company does it better than another company. All companies need to do it. It's in that sense just a commodity. And fragmentation is extremely bad for the industry. It will only drive cost if the SBOM format is different between the various companies. That will only drive cost and complexity. So it would be a preference to try to harmonize that, to ensure that if I, as a managed service or a service provider in the telco space, for example, if I could get the same format of the SBOM from whichever telco vendor I buy from, or whatever supplier I have, that would certainly help me to incorporate things faster, and do it with less manual labor than if I have to translate from one format to another. I think that the vision here is not to make any changes to OpenChain. OpenChain and harmonized or unified SBOM is really complementary to each other. OpenChain conformance should not be a requirement to adopt the format of the SBOM. It's certainly not a hindrance, but it should not be a requirement. And really the vision is one software bill of material in, same software bill of material can go out, so that there's no sort of manual handling. As long as you trust the supplier that provides you with the SBOM, you can provide that same SBOM out to your customers, or have that in the final product. That would be the idea. And with that, thoughts, ideas, is this something we want to work on? Is this a terrible idea? Let's have a bit of discussion.
I think it's a good idea. So when I was thinking what this group should do, and I think that was the obvious target, that we should somehow harmonize on our SBOM format usage. So I think the idea is very good. Let's discuss on the go, like how deeply we want to go into details. So most probably, I think we are talking about like profiling SPDX, for example, for usage. So we don't want to change these formats. We just want to like somehow have a recommendation how to use them, if I got it correctly.
That would align with my understanding as well. Then if we modify SPDX or something else, or if stock SPDX is sufficient, that I think is open for discussion and something we can discuss. But to share some from sort of the Ericsson reality is that we sort of face this all the time, at least with our suppliers, that we get the SBOM in a number of different formats, and then I'm not just talking about data and metadata formats. It's everything from a PDF to scanned and faxed copies of hard copies of an SBOM, and of course translating that into our internal systems. That's time consuming and annoying. So I think it's actually a little bit more than just saying if we should use SPDX, subset of SPDX or something else. It's also agreeing on which format do we deliver this in, and how is that delivery done. But anyone else want to share or express a view on any of this, or does this sound like a good vision for the group?
I like the vision.
And I will take silence as that everyone thinks this is a great idea then. I currently only have the one screen, so I can't see if anyone writes anything or if you're waving at me in the.
I think it's a great idea as well.
Good. Then I have the affirmation I feel that I need to at least to be able to shift to the next slide. So here I have left some things blank. So just for us to fill out, what are our goals? What do we want to do near term, short term? What do we need to discuss really in this group? I have put up data format, SPDX, Cyclone DX, something else. I guess that's one thing to settle on. Another thing is file format. How do we deliver this information? But curious to hear the other thoughts of this group. What else do we need to do in this group? What's our sort of concrete discussions that we need to have?
I think one issue is if we use this, I forgot the exact directive, but this includes directive in SPDX. So like, how do you create a single SBOM from several incoming SBOMs? So do we actually merge the files, or we use some including mechanism?
I think that's a very good question. It's a very good question. We'll put it up here as one of the things we need to talk about. I certainly don't have an answer for that today. So more now is more of fact-finding mission, if you will, that we'll figure.
Yeah,
we'll
I think we are in the problem statement phase.
Yes.
Then I think one obvious.
Sorry, please go on.
Yeah, like one obvious thing is that, because I don't know, there are like so many vendors, who do code scans and analysis, etc. So that how to promote that whatever is the format, you can get that from, I don't know, from Black Duck, etc. Because I think, in the end, this will be some sort of a de facto standard. If you take into account like how big the whole telco industry is. So I could imagine that at some point, it will become de facto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense to me as well.
I guess that's what we could hope for.
Yeah, and I think we need to think in terms of obviously look at sort of starting places. Applications like scan code, the formats that they tend to output. But then the next stage after that is whether we then want to move on to having defined a format for the SBOM. Then we think about what sort of easy human readable format we want to derive the compliance artifacts from using the SBOM. Whether there's a sort of a natural flow there, and we've developed a sort of very lightweight format using a cut down version of Markdown, so that basically the compliance artifacts that we produce, if you just look at them in plain text, they make perfect sense. But if you look at them in a Markdown reader, they look a little bit nicer to look at. Basically, it's just very sort of lightweight idea.
So would human readable format output the compliance artifact to be a accurate summary?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Yeah.
Good. I think that those are all excellent input for discussions and things we need to be managing, and certainly some other more things I haven't considered before. Anyone else have anything we should definitely be looking at?
I don't know if we want to go that far, but like what is the mechanism to deliver the SBOM, especially in case of container-based software delivery? So are we like embedding the SBOM into the containers, or is it the metadata of the container, or we just do as currently that like it's there somewhere in the documentation? Maybe that's something what we need, I think. What we could discuss.
That's an excellent point as well.
And I was cutting somebody, sorry for that.
Well, one thing my concerning is when we make the when we have the standard format, but how we express the information, somehow we need a canonical notation for the software names or versions or so. Somehow canonical notation for the information expression, I think.
But that's what we use, like SPDX or StatOnDX. So I think we have the.
I think it is independent of the formats, just kind of the expression of the information in the SPDX or StatOnDX. Any format is okay,
Okay.
but how we express the software's name or version information.
Okay.
Someone want to use it just like Ubuntu or Debian's names, but in other case, someone want to make its own name. So when we checks, it is same or different components. So if we need to, so we will have the somehow standard notation.
Yes, I think that's very important as well.
I have another suggestion that we should. This is a telco working group, and the different thing from other industries like automotive group is that we have not only vendors but operators. So we must use two sets of information that vendors that information that the vendors want to share, and also the information that the vendors and the operators want to share. That those two things are also important. So the additional information, not limited to the OSS compliance related thing, is very important in the terms of the transaction between operators and the vendors, I think. It could be
Very
optional, but yeah, we should think about the transaction between vendors and operators.
Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, thank you.
And please don't feel limited that I'm running out of dots. I can add more dots.
Jimmy, if you can you just add that the operator or vendor related thing in the previous one, yeah, because I think that we will have to just ask operators more about this sets of information in the future, I think.
Absolutely, that's well taken. I'll add that, and I also think that it's going to be crucial for us that we get the operators and the other service providers involved in these discussions as well, so that we ensure that what we create here has a buy-in and to relevance for them. It's all nice and well if we create something, but ultimately it should make our lives and our customers' lives easier, and hopefully also our suppliers' lives easier. That's the intent here. So I think that perhaps there may be even then adding vendor suppliers here. Perhaps there's also information there that would be specific. That's something we would need to look at least, I think.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's that's like a basic or fundamental common one and optional one, just changing for the phase, I think. It's selected.
Yes, I'll take that note in a new one here.
I think it's Jimmy what you just say that one of the goal is to make vendors, manufacturers, and operators' life easier. Is that overarching arching goal there?
3, perhaps we can take that down here. What do we do? Simpler is perhaps a better word. Or perhaps we should say make OSPO's life simpler.
Yeah.
That's at least
Well, that requires that all of these have OSPO.
That's true. That's true. So put it like this: make life simpler. A lofty goal.
Maybe we can say that make open source compliance more simple or something like that.
I don't think we have to spend too much on sort of that mission statement. I think we are sort of aligned on what we want to create, and the idea is to reduce the complexity in the ecosystem for how we both consume and how we deliver this kind of information. So I think we have taken down some very good points here now for our further consideration. Is there anything else anyone on the call feels that we have now missed? We really need to talk about this in the wider group. Otherwise, we can always come back to these things and add to it as we go along in the work. This is not static by any means. This is going to evolve over time, and we're going to realize that we need to add to this, and perhaps some things turns out we can remove them because they once we talk them through, they're not a problem. But this thing will definitely not look the same in the future as it does now. It's going to evolve. I think those are all very interesting points. I think those are all points that we sort of, that brings us to the next point is how do we progress the group? If we sort of just move to the next slide. So how we are to progress. I mean, I guess it's good to have this sort of meeting at a regular basis. I would suggest that we do this kind of meeting every 2 weeks, and that we rotate between 700 UTC and 1600 UTC, doing an hour meeting each time. That would facilitate for alternate participation between the US and Asia. I'm also open for if we have like large contingents, then adding a third rotation at another time that would be inconvenient for me and for Europe. I'm open to opening up that if we see a need for that. But I think to start with, just to gauge the interest and see if there's no interest from any of the US companies, then we don't need a time to cater to them. If there's a large interest, we definitely need a time to cater for them, and we definitely then need a time where you know everyone can be involved as well, regardless of if you're in Europe or US or Asia. And that's going to mean that it's always going to be an inconvenient time for someone. That's unfortunately just how time zones work. But this is my starting proposal for sort of meeting frequency and meeting timing. Would this seem acceptable to those on the call, and something we can ask Shane to set up?
I think it's good.
And this is the same what the tooling working group has, isn't it? Like 9 and 1800 European time. And I think it works pretty well.
Yep, good. And as said, if it turns out that we really need a time with US and Asia, so that it's not just either US and EU and EU and Asia. Then we'll add that third time at a later stage. So that's good. Then the question is, now we have settled that, and we'll make a note of asking Shane to set up that series of meetings. Then the question becomes, what should we fill these meetings with? Should we do a meeting focusing on a specific topic, or should we have different sub-working groups working in parallel? What's the preferred working method of this group?
I think we should start with like going through this list and start discussing them in the meetings. So let's not create separate working groups. I think we have like enough meetings already. So let's just start working a bit on these points and see where these are evolving.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I'm more than open for anything that reduces the meeting load. So not adding subgroups at this point. I think that's good.
Yeah, so I would
we can always do that.
Yeah, so I would really like to keep this single track, and also I would like to keep this somehow semi-sync, let's say. So if we could have some place where we note the meetings, either it's a conference page or a repo in the OpenChain org, where we could have our meeting notes, and for example, I can comment on it after the meeting or something like that. So that would be very good.
I think that's also an excellent suggestion. So we'll ask Shane if the OpenChain infrastructure will allow us to set up such repo. I don't think that should be a problem. We'll find a solution. But I think that's also an excellent idea. We keep this single group, so to say, and we set up a working area where we can store notes, documentation. People can work and comment things offline. Probably good also to have a separate mailing list so that we don't have to spam the general list when we want to discuss something specifically related to this. And also, I think that it's good if this group is as open as possible. So I think, unless anyone disagrees, I think let's publish the recordings of the meetings as has been done so far. So unless anyone disagrees with that, I think that's.
Just to confirm, it's no problem to create that space and to arrange the calendar invites for the meetings.
Excellent, Shane. Could we also set up the separate mailing list?
Yes, already done. So everything's ready to go.
Fantastic. You're so efficient. Great. I think that's sort of what I were hoping we would cover today. I'm apparently used to working with less efficient people than you all, so we have covered this in little more than half the allotted time. I don't know if we would like, if there's anything else we need to touch upon, if we should get a soft start on discussing some of this, or if we feel that it's great to have 25 minutes of our live spec.
One more thing what we might need to discuss is, like, if we create a repo where we store material, we should agree on what license we use on that repo.
That's an excellent point. Do we think that the group is willing to make a decision on that today, or do we want to consider the matter? My proposal that would be that we use Creative Commons these, Creative Commons simplest version, we allow for essentially any use of it. I misremember the nomenclature of the.
It's
the
the
license-
attribution share alike. Oh,
Yeah.
that that might be an issue for me. I would propose BISA, so the attribution share alike.
Normally in OpenChain project, we use CC0 to ensure people can incorporate information without restriction. But if this work group needs to take a different path, naturally we can do that.
Or if it's I'm the only blocking person, let me just talk to our legal guys and maybe I can get an okay for that.
That's not a problem. Let get back to us on that, and until then, we don't publish anything with the license. We can always add a license to it at a later stage, but until that, they will be sort of published, but without the right to redistribute and so forth. The intent is to do that anyhow. But for notice, which license did you say that would have been your preference?
It's the attribution share alike for Creative Commons.
That's CC by SA for.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's good that you can follow this kind of things, because otherwise at some point it will be very difficult to exchange documentation with the parent project OpenChain on top of the other projects, and then this can be at some point very annoying. So if you actually have some similar license for everyone to exchange in documents will be better.
But if we could, if you get back to us on if CC0 would be okay,
Yeah.
that'd be fantastic. And we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Would it be possible to commit to have an answer by the next meeting in 2 weeks, or would that not be sufficient time?
It is okay.
Great. Then we take that as sort of an agenda point to hopefully finalize the decision on license. Otherwise, let's see if it's not, then we'll revert back to the group to see if I spelled this wrong, but attribution share alike 4.0, if that would be an acceptable license to the rest of the group. But hopefully it will be okay to go with CC0. As for the rest of the OpenChain material, I think there's a certain benefit to simplifying that and harmonizing that as well.
Jimmy, Håkan
Yes.
speaking. I think there is a comment in the chat, maybe rephrasing some.
Let me have a look at that. I'll stop share and I'll go back. I'm sitting with only the one screen today, so my apologies for not following the chat.
Hey, Jimmy, so this is Tux. So may I summarize my comments in another phrase, so like identification of the component names.
Yes, apparently I can't copy and paste from the chat, but I'll write it down.
You
So
can
make you better.
Really.
And while Jimmy, you are doing that, then one thing that came to my mind is like, I think it could be good to have the vendors and operators, etc., to be involved as soon as possible, so that there's more or better buy-in. from their side as well, instead of that, we come up with something and then, this is, let's say, the specification you need to, apply when they are, part of the process from really the day one. It's better to, oftentimes it goes so that the buy-in is way better.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think if we have the repo and we have some kind of a mission statement there, I think we can start promoting this in other organizations, like in the To-Do group or like other places where operators are present. Like, for example, I can promote it a bit in Anuket. Stuff like this, but we need, we need something that's willing to do that.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent comment and an excellent point. Let's get the operators, but also equally important, the suppliers on board as soon as possible. And as said, this is an open group, and hopefully people will join. We'll have to do some more promotion work, obviously, to get everyone to the table. But I think that with the companies represented and with the people here, I think we have all possibilities to get the important stakeholders on board. I note that Nokia is part of this meeting, and that's fantastic. I think that we then have at least Ericsson, Huawei, and Nokia represented here, and that's a significant part. Hopefully, there are other vendors and even other vendors such as Cisco represented in OpenChain. Hopefully, we can get them involved as well, but also companies such as Comcast, who would be customers of ours and service providers, and we can hopefully get them involved as well. But also, I think equally important is reaching, not just preaching to the choir, but also reaching those companies that are not yet part of OpenChain. So let's take that as another agenda point to see how can we grow our group and grow the community. I'll take that down as one thing that we need to do, growing this group to also include MNOs and service providers. Grow the group to include more stakeholders.
Yeah, both upstream and downstream, basically. So
yes.
The whole chain is there.
Absolutely. Let's include the whole chain, or well, the whole supply chain essentially in this. I think that it's good to get a that broad buy-in to begin with. At least if people agree on the goals, then it's a lot easier. If people don't agree on the why, it's a lot easier to agree on the how, I think. So that's something that will happen over time. I don't think we'll manage to get everyone present for our meeting in 2 weeks. I think the meeting in 2 weeks will also be a little bit of a repetition of this meeting to ensure that everyone is on the same page, and those that were in a time zone that were not friendly to this meeting can participate, make their views known, and sort of we'll sort of repeat the exercise we done this meeting to ensure that we actually have alignment and that there's not a very different view from the North American companies and those that couldn't participate in this meeting. To some degree, the next meeting I think will be repetition of this, but I think that's also necessary, and then we can also focus on growing the participation. I think that's another benefit of being able to do this work in OpenChain. It's not only so that it complements OpenChain very nicely, it's also so that we can actually leverage the OpenChain network and the excellent reputation OpenChain has in the industry.
Okay, so you can make thumbs up.
Yes, it seems that that we don't have a very talkative group this morning. But is there any further comments? Anything that we definitely should cover until the next 2 weeks? Anyone want to bring anything up as any other business?
How do we subscribe to the mailing list? Is it a group SIO list or what is it?
Since I didn't know the list existed 10 minutes ago, I will have to leave that question for Shane.
Okay, so the mailing list, I think already has a lot of people involved, but I would love everyone on this call to take a moment and to go and check if they're subscribed. I'm putting the link into our chat right now that allows you to get subscribed. And of course, you can always just email me. My email address is going into the chat right now, where you can just email me and I will add you to the list. The short version is our list only has, there we go, only 7 members right now, so it's very lonely. Obviously, the people from this call are needed to join in. Email me your address or directly subscribe, and we'll use that as the center for our coordination.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a comment. My guess for the chain is that basically on the community, we have the global mailing lists, but I don't see the telco there on the website.
I will make sure to update that right now.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks, Harry.
And then if you have someone within your company that you think would be interested, or someone in your contact network, feel free to suggest they add themselves to the list. I think that if we grow that list, that's going to be an excellent road of communication. And the more we grow the network, the faster we can get the necessary stakeholder buy-in. I'll certainly do that on my end. I know some people that I think would benefit from being part of these conversations that unfortunately currently are not part of the conversations. I'll try to ping them as well. And hopefully we'll have an even broader participation for the next few meetings.
Sorry, one more request about the.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry, one more request about the mailing list. Would it be possible to configure it in a way that I can subscribe to the telco list without subscribing to the main list?
At the moment, I'm afraid the domain doesn't allow that, but you can definitely set it so you don't get messages from that. Or indeed, when you subscribe, I will change your settings in the background so you won't get extra messages.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, there's of course all sort of like filtering features in the email clients, so you can push those main mailing list emails to I don't know, some archive.
Yeah, I'm more into like ecological friendly solutions, not burning my CPU.
Don't worry, I'm checking for your name, so I'm gonna do that as soon as I see you.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Anything else?
Nothing for my time. Thanks for pushing this, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Jimmy. This is great.
No, thank you to all of you. This would have been completely pointless if we didn't have such great buy-in from the community and all of you participating. I appreciate those of you that stayed up late for this, and I appreciate those of you that woke up early for this. That's greatly appreciated. And as said, we will have the next regular scheduled meeting in 2 weeks from now, I think. And that meeting will in large parts be a repetition of this. You're more than welcome to participate, but it will be sort of an alignment meeting with the US interest group in this, that due to timing issues couldn't participate in this call, or at least couldn't without making unreasonable sacrifices to their night's sleep. So don't feel obliged to be part of that meeting, but you're always welcome to be part of that meeting. And we'll have the next meeting at this time in 4 weeks' time. I think that will be up on the calendar soon if it's not already there. And I appreciate all the comments and all the thoughts so freely shared by this group, and especially the time you put in to participate in this. I will create some minutes of this meeting and we'll upload them to the repository once we have it. I'll inform the mailing list that I hope you will be subscribing to soon once that is done, and I'll propose some tentative agendas for our next meeting. If you want to give input to that agenda, feel free to reach out to me either on the mailing list or directly. So with that, I suggest we close the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you all.
Very much.
Have a wonderful
Mycket,
day.
Jimmy.
Right. Thanks very much.
Bye
Next time.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.